folks. This is Ben Kinney, publisher of Business North Carolina magazine. Recently, we partnered with some of the top experts in the state to create a video discussion covering the energy industry and new innovations taking place throughout North Carolina. Excerpts from this discussion will be published in our August issue, coming out in a few weeks. In the meantime, here's a sneak peek at some of the things that we talked about. We kick things off with our moderator for the panel, E4 Carolina's President and CEO, David Doctor.
When we think about the energy economy and innovation, I noted when we started, we have a lot to work with. We're going to look today at where we're going and maybe even peek over the horizon a little bit. Which of these sectors are ready to take off? Which are going to evolve, which are really going to provide an energy economic driver for North Carolina. And why is that going to occur? What's going to be the driver for that innovation? Nelle, Andy, you both represent utility associations where you're able to apply the innovation in really a living lab every day. Nelle, you've got 26, Andy's got 60 plus. Nelle, why don't you first share with us what you're seeing as far as the development, what things of all types are the electric membership corporations delving into, and what are the benefits you're seeing?
Right. Well, I agree with Ivan's landscape perspective. The electric cooperatives, along with other utilities, are talking and engaging with our members and finding out what they're interested in. We're a member-based organization, and that's where we always start. In talking to our members, they want reliable electricity and affordable electricity, but they also want sustainable energy. And so in doing so, we are committed to reducing our carbon emissions at 2005 levels to 50% by 2030 and 100% net zero by 2050. So we are joining that conversation and have made that commitment as electric cooperatives here in North Carolina. You mentioned, David, a lot of innovation in work and projects that have been going on. The electric cooperatives actually dove in on several projects now almost 5 years ago. And we began with a microgrid on Ocracoke to look at resiliency opportunities with battery storage and solar, as well as more traditional generation on the island, since it is in Hurricane Alley. And certainly we have to ensure reliability and resiliency for outage recovery. Second is the Butler Farms innovative microgrid. This is especially appropriate for North Carolina. It is on a pork facility, pig farm in North Carolina, in central North Carolina. It provides an opportunity for solar, for battery storage, for a biodigester, as well as providing not only resources for the farm itself, but also the way we have constructed the microgrid and with our microcontroller being able to provide electricity for surrounding homes. And again, another innovative project to look at reliability and resiliency, but doing it in a cost-effective way and being able to provide additional value, as mentioned by Ivan, in this new environment. So those are just two. We have many others, but I want to give other people an opportunity to speak.
Great examples, Nelle. Thank you. And I know Andy's got a lot to cover also. Andy?
Like Nelle, I agree with Ivan's assessment of where we're going with the generation technologies as well as with electric vehicles. And the way that electricities and our members are seeing things is we're remaining focused on our customers. And what's happening, at least what we're seeing, is that our customers are adopting those technologies as the costs come down. We're seeing more distributed renewable resources at various customer classes, and the adoption of electric vehicles is definitely growing. So, what does that mean to us, and how do we need to innovate to make that happen? And that kind of brings us to a long-standing technical problem to overcome, and that is the fact that each hour of electricity that is produced does not cost the same as the next. For instance, 1 a.m. A kilowatt hour is significantly less to produce than at 5 o'clock on a hot afternoon in the summer. So, the good news on that area, and where we're seeing a lot of innovation, are with the digital technologies. And I think we're very fortunate to be where we are geographically, because as David pointed out earlier, we have a host of great suppliers locally who can help us tackle those problems. So, what we're doing is we're focusing on deploying those digital technologies primarily in the form of smart meters, but trying to extract as much value out of those smart meters as we can. So just as an example, today with COVID-19, we're facing a lot of customers who can't pay their bills, and one thing that is helping our cities and our customers is the prepay option that we offer, so customers don't get behind in their bills. Another thing that we're doing, we have an initiative and a few grants that we're collaborating with NC State University on data analytics, and what we're doing there is backcasting the impact of some of our energy efficiency measures, as well as assessing the performance of various components on our distribution system, so we can optimize the distribution systems and make them work more efficiently.
Thank you, Andy. And Gus, I know that you've been laser focused on a particular sector and evolving it, not just the broad landscape. And in fact, I think that we can properly recognize you as one of the founders of this sector in North Carolina. So tell us what you see with regard to evolution, with regard to waste to energy.
Thank you, David. That portion of our energy sector is growing at an explosive rate across the country. North Carolina is well positioned to not only participate in the growth of the waste energy sector, but to be a national leader. North Carolina is recognized by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, as well as USDA and some other organizations, as having the third richest bioenergy resources in the country. And we have only yet begun to utilize those resources for our energy needs. Nelle mentioned a bit earlier about the commitments we're seeing across the board to reduce our carbon footprint associated with our use of energy, not just electricity, but also in the transportation sector and in the manufacturing sector for our needs for heat. Manufacturing is an example. And a unique property of the waste energy industry, and particularly as it relates to biogas, is it not only is a zero emission source, it actually reverses the impact of existing emissions. And the reason for that is many of the organic materials that are currently underutilized or things that we may consider waste naturally create a carbon emission as methane and carbon dioxide in their current form. And so when we repurpose those organics and capture that methane and use it to displace our current uses of geologic derived natural gas, as an example, you're not only displacing the carbon emissions from the use of a fossil gas, but you're also capturing an existing source. And that's why some other states, such as some of the work done in California by the California Air Resources Board, they consider the use of wasted organic derived biogas as having the most significant positive impact on the carbon emissions that come from the energy sector. And because of that, the renewable natural gas and biogas that's derived from waste organics has an incredibly high value in the marketplace. We also see, not just for the commitments in the utility sector, but also in the private sector, the customer and consumer demand for those energy materials is growing at a very explosive rate. You have some very large manufacturers in the United States who have realized that their needs for energy can't solely be satisfied by our current clean electricity technologies and systems, but they must expand that to further displace their use of liquid and gaseous fossil fuels. And so one of the reasons that is creating such an explosive opportunity for the North Carolina economy is, again, by having such rich resources here in North Carolina, it positions us well to be an energy exporter. Currently we consume the natural gas produced in many other states. We don't produce our own fossil-derived natural gas. Interestingly, North Carolina produced its own natural gas on March the 23rd. That is the first time that renewable natural gas went into the pipeline grid system in North Carolina. It happened to come from a system that includes manure to biogas from 5 pig farms down in eastern North Carolina. So very exciting times. That has precipitated some commitments from a lot of folks to develop additional renewable natural gas resources in North Carolina. We currently have 2 facilities that are interconnected with the natural gas grid that are flowing renewable natural gas. There are at least 6 or 7 that have been proposed and approved to continue to move forward. A couple of those are landfill gas systems, which is very exciting, and some additional facilities for the swine farms in North Carolina, as well as some poultry organics to renewable natural gas. And I think that the last thing I would say there is, again, you've seen some commitments both from utilities in the state as well as some of the large organics producers in the state and in the industry, that they recognize these rich resources, they recognize the consumer demands, and are making commitments for large investments to continue to propel that part of our energy industry forward.
David's Office of Science, Technology, and Innovation, as the name says, focuses on technology and innovation. So David, what do you see evolving with this energy economy landscape?
Great question, David. And I will say everything that Nelle, Andy, Ivan, and Gus have said, completely agree with. The state of clean energy is clearly an area of innovation that's taking place in the state. And as an example of that, Governor Cooper's Executive Order 80, which was the effort to put North Carolina on the path towards reducing greenhouse gases, helped solidify the state's interest in innovative activities within the industry. And my office at the Department of Commerce, as well as a couple other offices, and the Department of Environmental Quality recently issued a request for proposals for an effort to understand the economic development opportunities around offshore wind in North Carolina. This is essentially a first step to assess the state's offshore wind energy supply chain, the ports, and other key infrastructure that would be required for undertaking innovative activities within this facet of the energy industry. So not only is this assessment going to provide insights into the state's challenges and inventory of businesses that can do it, but also innovative opportunities for the state and for businesses to best align with and partner on to make sure that this is an area for growth for the state.